him man-to-man. But there were times I had to get him man-to-man. And
favorite team that you guys love to face in your division?
Yours.
Yes, sir.
Like the games like we play against the Raiders, you might get 3 sacks. When they had Jamarcus Russell, which I did. So I got 3 sacks on them in the first half, right?
Yeah.
And I'm ready, and they take Tommy Maddox.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the West War Room Rivals podcast, where rivals collide. I am Matt, going to be your host tonight, and alongside me, as always, my partners in crime, Caleb with the Chargers, the Shovik brothers, Corey representing Broncos country in Austin, Chiefs Kingdom, and our other Cody is not here right now. He had work obligations, so Cody, we miss you, buddy. But don't worry, we do have a Cody here today. Cody Roark. We do. Cody Roark from Mile High Sports is here. Before we bring him on, he's backstage right now. Quick shout out to our sponsors. We are coming to you live from the JBW Solutions studio. Jeff and his crew at JBW Solutions. Make sure you contact them for all your safety needs. Been taking care of the war room for quite some time. Angie and her team at Emporia State Federal Credit Union, the Shovik Brothers Banking of Choice and the War Room's Banking of Choice, and Troy and his team at Field Ops Kansas. Contact them for all your field marking needs. And guys, giving us a moment of his time, the man, the myth, the legend, inside the Broncos locker room and on the field, Cody Roark from Mile High Sports.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Cody, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Tell you what, it's been a day. Wednesday is obviously the first day of practice for the Broncos, to begin the week. It's the case for most teams if they're not playing on Thursday night, so to speak. But it was our first day of snow here in the Mile High City. So as you know, it's a little chaotic at times when that's the case. But, it was a great day. Glad to be on here.
Absolutely. And we saw you had to fill up the car with gas in the snow this morning, too. We saw that. Starting it off right.
I mean, what's a day without a little bit of adversity, right? The one thing I always try to remind my wife, and my wife and I sometimes we do a little football kind of podcast here, more of a social media podcast than anything, where we talk. She asks football questions, which for some reason she doesn't know a lot about the game. She asks a lot of great questions, but I told her last night, I said, hey, it's going to snow tomorrow. You better go get gas. She's the type that doesn't want to go get gas. She never likes filling it up. So she said she didn't do it. And then this morning she told me she didn't get gas and that she was out of gas. So I had to get out there, scrape the snow, had it, essentially not heat up the vehicle, so to speak, just so I could try to make it to the gas station in time. But we made it, and here we are.
Caleb, he's putting us husbands to shame, But
yeah,
hey,
I know.
But let's go ahead, because he's given us a few moments of his time. Let's go ahead and kick off the show. Speaking of adversity, the Broncos right now, they face a lot of adversity this season, and they're 10-2, and this is arguably their best record since their Super Bowl run in 2015. So what is the vibe like in the locker room as compared to weeks 1 through 3? What's the vibe like in that locker room right now?
Well, I mean, I think that's a great question. Through the first 3 weeks, look, you had a little bit of a nail biter against the Tennessee Titans, who, had the number 1 pick in the draft last year. And everyone's like, yeah, they look terrible against the Titans. And then, they have 2 back-to-back heartbreaking walk-off losses in the fourth quarter against the Colts and the Chargers in games they didn't trail in the fourth quarter there. And so 1 and 2, it's like, oh, geez, the schedule's only going to get tougher from here on out. And then all of a sudden, they just go on this streak of winning 9 straight games at this point. They're now 10-2, as you mentioned, the best record that they've had in a long time. They had 10 total wins last year. One thing that Bo Nix told us here today when we talked to him was, last year we got 10 wins at the end of the season. We're here now. We still have a lot of room left, and we're at 10 wins. So we want to keep things going. The vibe in the locker room, I would say these guys are comfortable. I mean, they know, I would say, how to get over some of these situations of being in these one-score games, because last year they were losing all these one-score games, and we kept thinking to ourselves, wow, if you just flip the result, they might have had the best record in the NFL last year. Well, now they're finding themselves in the situation where they're making plays late. They're coming up clutch to win these one-score games, and that's a big reason why they're where they're at now. They didn't like that taste in their mouth that they had last year, and they really wanted to change that. So I just think, more experience for this team. I think it's been good for them. And in the locker room, they know that even if they're in a tough battle in the fourth quarter, doesn't matter who they're against, they believe that they're going to win and they're not going to blink. And I'd say that's the phrase that we've heard in the locker room for the last 10 weeks is we don't blink. We're not going to flinch when things get tough. So I think when you see it on a week-to-week basis, 9 consecutive wins, you start to believe that a little bit. And we're seeing that take place now.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. That's super cool. What do you think the biggest storyline is coming in after this win this past weekend?
It's a great question. Can the Broncos find a way to run the football? I mean, that's the biggest thing. We know how good the defense is. I mean, all of you have seen the Broncos defense, even in the division. You know how good the defense is. But the question is, like, can the offense just play consistent? Can they do more to help out the defense at times? And that's kind of been the theme all season long. And I think Sunday's game against the Commanders, we saw the offense actually helping out the defense a little bit. It was more so, can the defense get a stop against the Commanders and Marcus Mariota? And luckily they did on the final play where it mattered on the 2-point conversion attempt there. But the offense goes down, scores 27 points, and obviously leads a very impressive drive to start overtime, which I was a little surprised the Commanders opted to not receive the football first in that one, but that was a interesting decision there. I think that would have put more pressure on Denver if they would have gone down and scored and put the pressure on Denver in that regard there. But I just feel like running the football is going to be key for them, especially deep in the playoffs. Like, you have to have a defense that's very strong. You have to have a run game, because if your offense is throwing the football and it's not going well, if you're not having success, then your offense is off the field, your defense is back on. We saw that exact same formula play out for Denver in the playoffs last year against the Buffalo Bills. They had no run game. Receivers were dropping passes. The defense was on the field for 40 minutes out of a 60-minute game, and we saw the end result of that. It was a blowout to Josh Allen and company. So a lot of players, I talked to a few guys today, they said they remember that. They still have a sour taste in their mouths from that. They want to go further. They want to win a playoff game. They want to go far, but they understand what they have to do to get there. And Sean Payton told us today, when it comes to R.J. Harvey, who's now seeing the bulk of the touches because of J.K. Dobbins' injury, he says, you haven't seen it all yet. It's coming. So we hope that that's the case. Hopefully it happens sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, you and I almost simultaneously the other night sent out the same tweet as far as the running game, because it became kind of an issue. And I was even kind of like, oh man, we had the opportunity for Dameon Pierce that obviously didn't play out the way we thought it would. But it's interesting that you bring up the run game. So I'm going to go with, how do you think the coaching staff's adjusted so far, and have those adjustments are they transitioning onto the field or translating to the field?
Yeah, I would say that there've been a handful of adjustments, I think, throughout the course of the season. I'd say the biggest one, and you probably agree with this, is that, we are asking for the Broncos and for Sean Payton just to be more patient with the run game, like stick with it. The last, 3 or 4 games, I mean, prior to the bye week, leading up to it, they had 3 straight games where Bo Nix had 15-plus passing attempts in the first half, and the running backs combined between 2 different guys only had 6 total carries between the 2 of them. Like, that is not a sustainable formula going forward, because now it's like, hey, if you're going 3 and out, like, you're wasting possessions. And I think the Raiders game was a great example of that, like 8 straight 3 and outs. That was one of the worst games I think I've ever been to in my life. And I've seen some duds, but that one was frustrating, I think, just to see, because it was almost like you could just say, hey, might as well just punt the football on first down, because they're not doing anything with it. I would say the run game and how they're trying to adjust to it. Sean has talked about it, but then Sean says things, and we even see it on the play sheet. It says run the ball or run it. And then what does he do? Sometimes you go away from it. But I would say that clutch moments the last handful of weeks, even if they haven't had like large production on the ground, we've seen them convert in the run game on, to get a first down, and some key moments against the Chiefs. And obviously I think against the Commanders, where RJ Harvey punched in for a touchdown. So I guess I can't complain too much on that. It's just, we all hope that they have a more concerted effort to saying, hey, the run game is going to be important for us if we want to go far. And certainly that's the key. Go back to Super Bowl 50, CJ Anderson, Ronnie Hillman, those 2 guys were carrying a really lackluster offense in Peyton Manning's arm. And then Brock Osweiler's up and down nature as well. So that was the key. Good defense and a good run game. The Broncos have the capability of doing both.
Yeah, when you break it down like that, it realized just take it back to basics, right? Like growing up, that's what we always heard. Play defense, run the ball. And it's like coming full circle, like teams, get back to it, please. So, I mean, as a Chiefs fan, I don't know what running the ball is. So I feel your guys' pain. I know what that's like. But
you have the angriest runner in the NFL. It's crazy.
Exactly.
But he's kind of like, and he's like Sean. If 3 or 4 carries only get a couple yards, we're done. It's not working. We got Patrick. Let's go. So, yeah, it's wild. But from your perspective, what identity is the team starting to form on offense and on defense? I know coming off the Commanders game, the defense may be a little rough, but all in all, what identity do you think both sides of the ball are getting right now?
Yeah, I think with the offense, it's really becoming Bo Nix's team offensively. I think you're seeing a quarterback who's very much in command of the offensive huddle. I mean, you're seeing him have full autonomy at the line of scrimmage. The one thing that they've improved over the course of the last handful of weeks is getting the personnel in sooner so that Bo can sit there and read the field and read the defense and see, okay, what personnel is the opposing defense in? Where's my matchup? What might I have here? We've seen him take advantage of that. And when Bo has time to read the field and to see that, he knows where he can go. And he knows where if this option is taken away, I can go here. When you're getting to the line of scrimmage with 5 seconds and you got to hurry up and snap the ball, I mean, you can't read. You're just reacting. And sometimes that's where we see chaos. And I would say that would hurt any quarterback. Doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter if you're Mahomes. Doesn't matter if you're Matthew Stafford. If that is a common theme for your offense, that's going to be something that holds you back. So I would say that the offensive identity is certainly forming around Bo Nix and who the team knows that he is. I mean, this is a locker room. They love Bo. You know, I was talking to JL Skinner today in the locker room, and he says, we feel like we're okay. Like, even when things are chaos, he says, we look and we see how maniacal number 10 is. He says, we feel good about, you know, our chances of winning that game. So the locker room, obviously, it is very much behind Bo Nix. As we saw Adam Troutman a few weeks ago, really go to bat for his quarterback with, you know, probably one of the best quotes of the year. But I'd say that's that for the offense. Defensively, I mean, it's the same as it's been all year, and that's aggressive. And obviously, they're coming off of a rough game against Washington where they felt like they just had so many miscommunication errors. They obviously struggled with tackling, wrapping up. They didn't bring their feet, and obviously they didn't, you know, rally like group tackle the way that they have. And you know, Marcus Mariota and them, they did a great job of getting the ball out of his hands quickly so that they could negate the pass rush of Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper. So I say just aggressive, stingy defense as always. It's coming off of a performance, but what do we talk about in the NFL? If your defense is carrying you all year, there's going to be a time where they're going to drop off a little bit and you're going to need the offense to help out. I felt like Sunday's game was a perfect example of the offense kind of shifting that narrative a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's great that you talk about Bo, because even as an outsider looking in, when Bo came in, even as a rookie, you just felt that whole vibe, the whole culture just changed. Like, they looked more spirited, like uplifted, like, and motivated. They actually wanted to get out there and play. And I do think that a lot of that was credited to Bo. You know, transitioning on a little bit, just kind of recapping the game, and perfect example of that when he put together that beautiful drive in overtime to get the go-ahead touchdown. What was your biggest takeaway from that performance against the Commanders?
I mean, look, tip of the cap to them. I think the Commanders' defense, since Dan Quinn has actually taken over play calling for them defensively, they've been much better. They looked a little bit more aggressive, like the old Dan Quinn defenses we saw in Seattle. You know, look, there's a lot of zone coverage. That's primarily what the Commanders played, and Denver knew that going into the game because they were very well aware of who was calling the plays at that point there. So I think that was a big change in that. But I just think that they reacted to what was in front of them well, and they responded. You know, of course, you're going to have a couple mistakes here and there. I thought the interception that Bo threw was a really bad one. That was one of those arm arrogance throws where I felt like, you know, he had Pat Bryant coming across on the dig, and he was just trying to fire that maybe a little bit over and inside to lead him perfectly, and Bobby Wagner was sitting right there. So, you know, you're just seeing this team that is, I still think they're playing around with certain things to see like, hey, what can we build on, right? They have a foundation, obviously, but the idea is, hey, as we get down the stretch, what can we do differently going forward? I think that's definitely what my biggest takeaway was from the Commanders game here. And now it sets up a tough matchup on Sunday. Look, the Raiders, despite their record, despite being out of playoff contention, we saw them on Thursday Night Football against Denver. They can play them tough, and certainly the Raiders have played Denver tough as of late, even though that Denver swept them last year. This is one of those games the Broncos aren't overlooking, and there are massive playoff implications at stake for Denver because you beat the Raiders here. Let's say that the Broncos and the Patriots, they both went out down the rest of the stretch. They finished with the same record. Denver would have the tiebreaker because of common opponent. The Broncos have beaten, you know, these teams. They've beaten the Raiders, which the New England Patriots unfortunately lost to those guys in week one. So it's really just a week at a time mentality. But yeah, I think things are getting bigger here for this team, and we're going to find out a lot about them in these next 4 or 5 weeks.
Definitely. And then Caleb, before we get to your question, Cody, we have Cody 2.0, the Raiders fan, last of the Mohicans of this group. He's finally here. So
Cody, it's a pleasure to meet you, Cody.
It's nice to meet you, Cody. There's not many of us out there.
You know what? My favorite joke to say is keep using that name the right way. So
I love it. That's good. I haven't heard that before. I might have to steal that from you.
Yeah, you should. It's a pleasure to meet you, Cody, too, by the way. Actually, these guys have been talking about you for the last few weeks, and I've been cruising your socials and stuff. So I'm really loving what you've been doing, and I'm excited that you're on. I'm sorry I missed the opening part to get to know each other, but I'm ready to roll when you are.
Good. All good. Great to meet you.
Thanks, buddy.
He even had a little Christmas jingle that I was singing on X, the snow one, where the Broncos practice has to go. And so I'm like, now he's even writing Christmas jingles.
Yeah. I try to piece some funny things together from time to time when I'm doing my reports. But, what was it last week for Thanksgiving? I said, the Broncos, Thanksgiving may be on Thursday, but the Broncos are preheating the oven here on Wednesday. Just some funny, clever things from time to time, but you never know.
That's pretty awesome. All right, Caleb, when you're ready, bud.
All right. So how'd you evaluate the quarterback play and overall offensive execution this past weekend?
Yeah, I felt like Bo, for the most part, I mean, early on, you look at some of the completion percentage in the first quarter, there were a couple of drops, there was, one or two plays where he and Evan Ingram just simply weren't connecting. Bo had a low throw in the dirt that was, hard for Evan to try to make that catch. Evan had a drop, on one of those plays, but you just see a guy who, like, even if he makes a mistake, I would say Bo shakes it off on the next series. And he goes out there and he makes a crazy throw. I mean, the touchdown throw that he had to Cortland Sutton was certainly impressive. The degree of difficulty was incredible. But, I just think that you're seeing a guy who's not afraid to go out there and just sling it, and you're going to make some mistakes at times. But I think the thing I have learned so much about watching Bo, and obviously I'm an Oregon Ducks fan, so I got to watch him for 2 years. How he's grown from obviously being a college quarterback to how he's grown in the NFL, I like it because you're seeing him evolve a little bit and figuring out what he can and can't do at this level, right? And he's getting stronger in certain areas. And maybe he's understanding, hey, this isn't what I'm great at. I'm going to shy away from this, or I'm going to figure out how to make this a strength instead of a weakness. I would say that's what we saw. Like, people don't realize 29 pass completions in an NFL game, it's hard. It's very, very hard to do. He's 29 of 45. I think at times, and this is the thing I learned about him, it doesn't matter like how the first half went or the first three quarters. If he can find a way to put the Broncos in a position to win, he's not gun shy. And I like that about him. And there's times where you have to reel that in a little bit, right? Or you have to worry about that because you don't want to be too much of a gunslinger or else you get Jay Cutler. But Bo, I would say Bo is miles ahead. I think his cerebral processing is definitely something that is separating him right now. He's playing at a high level in certain moments. Could you want more consistency from him? 110%. But he's working to obviously try to improve in some of those areas. And I think we saw the areas he struggled with through the first, 10 or 11 weeks of the season. I started to see some of those transitions of, hey, you've tried this before. This isn't working. Here's how you can make it work. He's carried over those improvements to now, and now it has to be a continuously week-to-week thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really does. And let's talk defense real quick. Kind of what stood out to you, good or bad, because hats off to Cliff Kingsbury, because we saw right away what the game plan was. It was getting the ball out of Mariota's hands quickly and then basically just gashing the Broncos on the ground. So what kind of stood out to you on the defensive side?
Yeah, that early on, they opened up with just throwing the out route or throwing to the flats, just getting the ball out of Mariota's hands quickly. But then it was when Rodriguez broke off a couple of big runs, and all of a sudden now, he's getting yards after contact. Then it opened everything up. I mean, the Commanders were able to do a little bit more play action. That's why I think we've been pounding the table, say, hey, like if Denver can run the ball well, then the boot action stuff that they're trying to do will actually work. Then, defenses are going to account for it. Right now, they don't respect it because Denver hasn't been able to consistently run the ball effectively. So I thought that's what the Commanders did. And I don't know how much of this really played into it. I mean, I think it's a talking point right now. Cliff Kingsbury, when he was with Arizona, Vance Joseph was his defensive coordinator. And so if anyone knows maybe how to attack his defense a little bit, it's him. But I would say that Vance's defense is arguably, schematically, there are a lot of things that are similar, but how they attack because of the personnel that Denver has is different than anything Vance has ever had over the course of his career when he was with the Miami Dolphins, when he was with Arizona. I mean, they had some good players in Arizona, but not to the extent of what they have here in Denver. So I felt like Kingsbury definitely capitalized on some of that. They knew that Vance was going to be blitz happy. That's obviously been a trend, I think, coming into the game. The Broncos had a 45% pressure rate on QBs. Sunday night, it was a 5%. And that's because, hey, quick passing game. We're going to carve them up with the run. And obviously it was working. And then they opened everything else up. And Zach Ertz hurt them in a big way. So they're going to have to account and make some changes this week, especially when you're facing a guy like Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. I know Genty's been struggling in the run game. It hasn't really, from my perspective, it hasn't been Genty's fault. It's the offensive line that they have right there. They get him a good offensive line. I think Genty's going to be an absolute gem inside the division. But that's where I think that the Raiders could try to attack them this week.
I appreciate that compliment. It sounded like wasn't too much of a backhanded remark, but I appreciate that. So moving on to continuing on Sunday Night Football, was there a key turning point or a moment that you felt shifted the momentum in Washington's favor?
Yeah, I would say that I'd say in the fourth quarter when, Jade Barron, he had an interception, but there was a penalty, right? And it was Talanoa Hufanga got there a little too early on a play, and it kept the drive alive. And then there was a 3rd and 25, and I think the Commanders, they got like 2 yards shy, and it was like 4th and 2, and then they picked up that 4th down. To me, that's why I was confused. Like going into overtime, the Commanders decided to kick the football away because I was like, man, the Commanders have all the momentum right now. Why not take the ball? If you drove down the field against this Denver defense the way you have all night, go score. And then all of a sudden, now you put all the pressure on the Broncos offense, which wasn't doing a lot necessarily in the 3rd and 4th quarter. Now you put all the pressure on them to have to go down there and make the plays. I was surprised with the approach that the Commanders had, but that was kind of my key takeaway there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That 3rd and long to 4th and short, that's what stuck out to me too. That's
backbreaking.
Yeah, Denver's defense. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I was getting flashbacks from like that Chiefs game some time ago where they had Pat Mahomes dead to rights. It was 2nd and 30, and they just found a way to convert that. I had flashbacks. It ruined me.
That's kind of been the problem. Like Denver going into that game, they've had the number 1 3rd down defense. They've had the number 1 red zone defense. They were the complete opposite against the Commanders. I mean, seemingly they couldn't figure out how to get a stop on 3rd down. And I think the 3rd and longs have been a little problematic for Denver this year. They've given up some big plays. Now, part of that is relative to penalties. I thought Riley Moss did a much better job this week of not being grabby, so to speak. But
yes, sir.
Yeah, it's just you never know with this team. They're always going to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, that's kind of the NFL this year, right? But
I love it.
Yeah, the parity. I know my Chiefs are taking a hit, and that's what a lot of people love. But just as a fan of the sport, it's been wonderful. But if there was one correction or adjustment that you think the Broncos absolutely have to make coming out of that game, just one. I know you've mentioned some run game, a little defense here and there, but if you had to put your finger on just one adjustment or correction Denver needed to make, what would that be?
Yeah, I think so much of it's matchup contingent upon who they're facing, what personnel looks they're getting offensively, defensively. I think against this Raiders team is, that Max Crosby is going to play you wide and they're going to pinch from the outside in. Yep. And then that's where you got to, capitalize. You're going to get some man coverage looks, but they're going to play a lot of zone. And it's like finding those soft spots, trying to figure out which matchups you can isolate. I think so much of it when you're facing a pass rusher like Max Crosby, you have to account for, the depth of your drop, if you're the quarterback, if it's a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step drop, is the timing of that meshing and marrying with the routes and the depth of the routes, or the receivers running the right routes, like all that and the timing behind it, I think is so big. That's kind of how Denver's attacked opposing defenses this year. So for me, I would say that is definitely an adjustment they have to make. I felt like in overtime, we saw them do that. We saw them take advantage, and they set some stuff up because in the fourth quarter, Bo actually had a pass to Evan Ingram on 3rd down where it was a little bit of that, hey, he's running across. He's going to sit for a second, catch it, and go. So in overtime, you run that same route. You do the head fake there. You step inside, and then you go back the other way. And then all of a sudden now you're up the field for 41 yards. So there's a lot of like setting some things up like, hey, they bid on this. Let's go back to this. I think that's something that Denver's going to have to do a lot of this week against the Raiders, who played them differently on Thursday Night Football than Sean Payton said that they thought that they would be played by them. So I'm curious to see what exactly that was.
Yeah, than 10-7.
Yeah, a little bit more points. Yeah. Kind of continuing on a little bit of the Raiders and Broncos preview. And this is, and I say this too, hoping that my Raiders do put up a challenge, at least to the Broncos, because we're down bad right now. But what's the biggest challenge the Raiders bring to the Broncos this Sunday?
Well, I'd say defensively for the Raiders, it's Max Crosby. I mean, no matter what, even with the team being out of playoff contention, this dude, play number 1, you're going to get that same effort on play number 60 if they're on the field 60 plus plays, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the thing. I look across the NFL. If there's one player I could steal from the Raiders and put him on Denver, it would be Max Crosby. He'd be the one guy because of just how relentless he is. You know, he's chippy. He talks smack. I mean, obviously, I think we all saw him and Justin Herbert going at it a little bit during this last week. And,
yeah,
you know, obviously the mutual respect at the end of the game there that those guys have for one another. Football is so competitive. That's why we love it. Like, you know, it could be fun. It could be trash talk in between the lines after the game. It's like, all right, hey, good job. That, I think, for the Raiders defense, that's what the Broncos have to look out for. And I think, you know, for this upcoming matchup, I think Geno Smith, because of what happened the last time they faced off, I think Geno's going to probably try to get the ball to his hands quickly, take a page out of what the Commanders tried to do against them. And so much of that, and we saw this a little bit on that Thursday night game, they're going to bring Tyler Lockett, the old reliable guy, in motion. They're going to bring him on a crosser. You know, they're going to run him on little short routes where he can just sit. You know, I'm curious to see how Dante Thornton kind of goes throughout the week as he's in NFL concussion protocol, whether or not he'll be ready to go for the game. But then there's also Brock Bowers, who, I mean, he's a unicorn. Line up outside as a receiver, in the slot, offset, inline. I mean, you name it. That's going to be something that they're going to have to account for. But I think for Denver defensively is going to have to shut down that run there with Ashton Genty, meet him in the backfield a few times the way that, you know, that they did in that first matchup. I know Genty almost had a couple of big runs in that game, certainly in that Thursday night matchup previously, but contain the run. And then I think that Denver's got confidence in their secondary, but they can't be making the same mistakes. They got to find a way to get off the field on third down. And they got to do it often. They have to hope the offense rewards it, because once again, like, you don't want to be in a situation where you're on the field in Vegas. And I know Broncos country travels well, but you don't want to be in that situation on the road versus being at home.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, Cody, thank you so much for your time. We know you got dinner plans. You got to get out of here. So again, thank you so much for your time. Before we let you go, why don't you go ahead and just plug in your socials? Let us know and our listeners know where we can find you so we can watch all your inside takes on the Broncos.
Yeah, no, hey, first off, I just want to say thank you all for having me on, reaching out. I know sometimes scheduling can be a little crazy. I try my best to be able to do things like this because I think it's super important. If you're taking time out of your day to invite me, I want to take time out of my day to be able to jump on and do whatever. So I appreciate you guys for reaching out and having me on here. You can follow me on social media at Cody Roark NFL. I post a lot on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Those are the primary three. And I also host a daily Broncos podcast called Locked On Broncos. Broncos fans get a show every single day all year long, which is obviously a nice little treat that we like to provide to obviously, viewers. But that's about it, and obviously I do daily written beat reporter coverage at milehighsports.com. So if you want to know what's going on at practice, milehighsports.com. I always have people covered.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cody. You're welcome back anytime, but enjoy your dinner and go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Thank you guys so much. Have a good
You're
rest
welcome,
of your
Cody.
evening.
It's nice meeting you, bud.
Nice meeting you.
Perfect. All right.
Whoops.
All right. Well, that was awesome.
Looks like I missed a heck of a party.
It was a good time.
It was a good time.
Yeah, the first thing he said, I'm glad that Cody guy's not here, Raiders fan.
Well, we'll have to get him on, and this time I'll be in attendance for that one from start to finish. He sounded like a cool dude, even though he reps the wrong team. So,
well, it is. I mean, it's Raiders week, man. It's Raiders week for Matt and I. So it's. I do agree with him in the sense of we can't take the Raiders lightly because we saw how close that first matchup was, 10-7 on that god awful Thursday night game. And he's right. Ashton Genty almost had a couple on us. Geno and Tyler Lockett were kind of having their way, in the passing game. Now you throw in Brock Bowers, who he's a unicorn, as he was saying, but at the same time, this presents the biggest problem for the Broncos as far as big tight ends. How are we going to match up with that? Because we've seen Brock Bowers kind of, take it to the Broncos in the past. I think for the first matchup, it was 3 catches. So, for the most part, the Broncos were able to keep him kind of at an arm's length. But you never know now. Cliff Kingsbury may have shown something with Mariota in the quick passing game. So we'll see how, the Raiders present themselves this Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. And as of late, Jade Barron has done very well covering tight ends. He's covered Jake Ferguson. He had to cover Brock Bowers in that first matchup. So we'll probably see that matchup again. Yeah, Zach Ertz had his number, in that Commanders matchup. So like you said, hey, maybe the Raiders paid attention and they've got something for him. But now it looks like, all right, well, what does Vance Joseph have in store? Because clearly he made adjustments, and I don't want to say they were the wrong ones, but once he realized the Commanders were just doing quick releases, he dropped back a little bit, and then they started running the ball. So then it was like, what do we do now? So we'll have to see how they game plan for that.
Yeah. I think.
Go ahead, Cody.
I was going to say, I think one of the things I'm curious about this second matchup, and more or less on a pessimistic side, because again, we don't have Chip Kelly now calling plays. We have Greg Olsen, so that's a little bit different. But I'm hoping too that we take a little bit of what did not work in our last game against the Chargers. Like maybe Geno is better served on like a bootleg rollout to buy some time in the pocket or move the pocket a little bit. Because I felt like the Raiders had called some plays that might have benefited in some positive fashion, but because Geno held onto the ball, or at least it didn't seem to be like no urgency to move the pocket to buy him time. At least I feel like if the Raiders have a shot to even like combat against the Broncos defense, and it's mainly the pass rush, I feel like if you can just get open quick enough, the quick passes, or stay on the field for a couple of drives that last 8 to 10 plays, you have a good shot at least coming away with some points. And I think that's how the Raiders are going to at least stay close. But again, though, I just don't think that we have enough offensive weapons to counter the pressure defense that you guys bring. And just like what you guys are saying about film for like maybe the Commanders showed how to beat the Broncos, this is also the Broncos' second time playing the Raiders. They're going to have film on how they're going to best suit the Raiders to stop any sort of, maybe Brock Bowers going off on them. They're not going to probably allow that as much. Genty is probably going to be taken out of this game, and Denver's probably going to dare Geno to beat him with his arm. And this season we've seen Geno's just not that quarterback he was in Seattle. So as much as I appreciate Cody's perspective on the defensive side, I also look at the offensive side that needs to score the points and what they're going to be going up against, knowing that this defense is going to be ready for him the second time.
Yeah, and real quick, Caleb kind of transitioned over to the Chargers real quick because Herbert had surgery today, and it looks like he's trying to play. What else did you kind of see based on for your quarterback?
Yeah, so he had surgery. They said they stabilized it. He actually had a press conference today. I haven't had a chance to watch all of it yet, but he said he's expecting to play this week. I'm curious to see what happens there because, we're playing the Eagles. They're an NFC team. Not saying that game doesn't matter because every one of these matters here in this late stretch. But really right now, of the games we have left, this might be the one that matters the least. So I guess, in my opinion, I think we need to get him healthy, most importantly. At least get him a week out of surgery minimum before we let him play 2 weeks, But he is expected to play this week. He says he's going to play. So we'll see. We'll see. He didn't practice today. I think he's scheduled to practice for the first time Friday. If I heard correctly, he might do some one-on-one stuff tomorrow. We'll see. But, I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens Monday.
Yeah, it kind of takes away the I formation under center because there's no way they're going to put him under center. You see it with Aaron Rodgers this first week. There's a lot of pistol, a lot of shotgun. So, Matt, what's your kind of take on the whole Herbert surgery? We holding him out or we playing him this weekend? What are you thinking?
The way I'm looking at it is like this. If Daniel Jones can play with that fracture in his leg and do what he was able to do against the number one defense, there's no reason why Herbert shouldn't play. But then again, the Colts have a better offensive line and do a better job of protecting Daniel Jones than the Chargers. It may as well be a revolving door at that point. So, I'm 50-50 on it because how confident are you in Trey Lance's ability to be able to lead this team? And then how confident are you in your offensive line to put Herbert back? Yeah, it's his non-throwing hand, but how confident are you to put him out there with the banged up offensive line with a banged up QB? So I'm a little 50-50 on it, but I mean, I don't know. You may have to change your game plan. Like maybe take the ball out of Herbert's hands a little less and give it to Kamani Vidal, and Omarion Hampton's supposed to be back. Maybe run the ball a little bit more. But then again, how confident are you in that offensive line to be able to get that push and maintain it and keep those run lanes open before, the Eagles pick up on that, and now Herbert has to throw more. Now he has to face more blitzes. Now he has to face more pressure. So it's going to be it's a tough decision, but I don't know. I'm a little iffy on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did see where Jim Harbaugh said that he's expecting to play Trey Lance in those I formation situations, any under center situation. Really curious to see how that works out. If Herbert does play, how they interchange that. I still think we'll be in gun most of the game or pistol formation, that kind of thing. But I found that really interesting. I meant to say that a minute ago. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So let's look at probably the biggest game of the weekend, and that's the Chiefs-Texans. Obviously, this game is monumental for Kansas City. Again, we talked last night about the margin of error for the Chiefs being very, very small. And then you lose this game, then you're not technically eliminated, but it becomes that much harder. So I guess with you, what are you, especially with Simmons going on IR today, he also had surgery, so he's out. What are you kind of expecting as far as maybe a game plan to face that tough Texans defense?
Well, I mean, I know what game plan should happen. It's a matter of are the Chiefs and Andy and Patrick going to do that kind of game plan? But I remember a few years back when we opened the season up with the Texans, we thought we were going to fly all over with Patrick, and Clyde actually almost had like 30 carries, had like $150, and we really kind of just controlled the game that way.
Yep.
If we can do that again, I like our chances. Not with Clyde, preferably with like Hunt and Pacheco. I'd like it to be a quick passing game for Burchard Smith. I'd like for us to finally use the fella. But yeah, no, we might actually be down 3 offensive linemen, which going into a game against the Texans is never ideal. You're kind of nervous if you have your starting 5 out there, right? Like they're no slouch. So going to be interesting. I'd like us to have that Colts game plan. Like if we can just take that and apply it here, I don't want to say I like our odds. I think it increases our odds. But man, there's no week after this. The Chiefs have to leave it all out there this week. And then if they do it, they have to do it each week, because I think I even saw if they went out, it's not even 100% chance to make playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if you don't win out, I know you can't say they're eliminated, but they are. So whatever your best game plan can be, apply it now. We've said the Chiefs in the past saved their stuff for the playoffs, and they kind of just coast through the seat. Well, get your playoff game plan out now, because this is what this and every game after this is going to be. Don't just want Mahomes to be Superman, because I can tell you the Texans defense very easily could be his kryptonite. So please run the ball. Please have quick passes. Please don't make Patrick Mahomes have to win this game for us. And then the biggest issue for the Chiefs, play defense. Okay, they're embarrassing. They're bottom in that league in sacks. They're one of the worst defenses on third down. Like, the offense has been fine. Let's play defense. Texans aren't a juggernaut by any means. So I don't know. I need the defense, but there's so much wrong with the Chiefs that I'm not confident.
Cody, are the Chiefs going to get it done this weekend?
Man, that's a really tough one. I think if they do, it's got to be because they're, Spags has dialed up some sort of blitz package that has gotten CJ Stroud kind of in a turnover mode, because CJ Stroud, even the last couple of weeks since he's been back, has been okay. He's not like setting the world on fire, but even earlier this season, you get him out of the pocket, or you get him kind of a little frazzled, and you can get him to cause a turnover. I think, to Austin's point, if the Chiefs have anything in their bag of tricks, something that they've been sitting on, waiting on, now's the time to deploy it, because you don't have, you may not have another game to wait to hold on to it. You've got to almost do whatever you can to at least keep your hopes alive, because you can't not take the Texans seriously. And let's say the defense is able to answer the call, so to speak, and go and pressure defense that CJ Stroud, collapse that offensive line, which is okay, but we know that if a defense can penetrate through it, then you can get CJ Stroud to make mistakes. I think that's what helps the Chiefs. What does help the Chiefs on an offensive side is this isn't the first stout defense that they've played. So there will be a game plan for quick throws, keep things balanced. I do believe in that. It's just on their defense. Can they hold the line? Can they hold back teams from scoring to where the games get out of control? If it's a close game, I still trust the Chiefs. It's just whatever the Chiefs have not put out there, they need to do it today, or they need to do it on Sunday. They cannot wait any longer. It's time to get into playoff mode, so to speak, and you need to win.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. All the pressure is on the Chiefs this weekend.
Yes.
I know that you can say the Texans, but I mean, they still have that small chance of the division, whereas the Chiefs the Chiefs are banking on a wild card right now, because I'm not sure, unless something happens to the Chargers and they kind of vault and tank, I'm not sure, but the Chiefs are a wild card or bust right now, whereas the Texans, they still have that chance to maybe sneak in and win that division. So yeah, all the pressure is on Kansas City this week. Matt, did the Chiefs get it done this weekend?
Part of me wants to say yes, because they're at home, and I mean, they just play better at home. But then again, and if you look at it, this is the third consecutive number one in some kind of category that they've had to play. You played the number one offense in the Colts, then you played the number one offense in the Cowboys. Now you have the number one defense coming to town. And again, the Texans are definitely holding that grudge from the playoff game. Granted, they're still on like the refs. No, the refs didn't allow 8 sacks. That's on you, buddy. But this is a fast defense, and I like to call them like the Hornets' nest, because they just swarm to the ball. It's like they break from. They're so good at breaking off of their coverages. If they see the ball carrier, someone caught the ball, they're so good at breaking off of their coverages, and they just swarm to the ball. They're fast. They hit hard. How is that offensive line going to do? And even if you do get Kareem Hunt going, how long before they adjust to that and just close those run lanes down? So, yeah, you don't want to put the game entirely on Pat Mahomes' hands, but right now he's probably your only reliable player. Because, I mean, again, Kelsey's dropping passes. Rice is your best receiver, and he dropped quite a few passes on Thanksgiving Day. Everyone's dropping passes, so it's like somebody's got to step up. This is do or die for the Chiefs, because like I said before, their destiny is already – them losing that game on Thanksgiving, their destiny is already out of their hands. So they need to win out, and they need a lot to happen from the Bills, from the Ravens, from the Colts. They need a lot to happen in order just to make the wild card. So, I mean, can they get it done? I think they can, because they're at home, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough battle.
Yeah, and there's going to be some shitty weather this Sunday in Kansas City. Cold, possible snow. It just looks like a nice cold game for Houston and Kansas City. So that'll be one to kind of pay attention to and see, because I think the implications of this have so much on the Chiefs. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and complain if they have to stay at home this playoff season and watch and see what they do this offseason. So I do want to get into a little bit of a league recon real quick, and I do want to talk a little bit about tomorrow's game, because again, we're talking about big games. Well, tomorrow's a pretty big game on the NFC side with the Lions and Cowboys. We talked last night. Obviously, the Lions are on the outside looking in. All of a sudden, they had a nice little stranglehold on the North, and then here come the Bears. I don't know where the Packers are still right there, but then you got this weird story of the Cowboys and what they're doing, and they look like a new team, a new and improved team. I think Caleb made the comment last night about Quinnen Williams, and the impact he's had on that defense and what they've been able to do. So, Caleb, I'm going to start with you. Can the Cowboys get this done on the road in a very hostile environment in Detroit?
I think they can. And the reason, there's a lot of factors that play into that answer, but the Lions are not looking great at this moment. And Amon-Ra is questionable, most likely going to be out. I think that alone benefits the Cowboys. I mean, granted, the Cowboys are the Lions. They have Jameson Williams, and they have other weapons. Jahmyr Gibbs is incredible. He's going to make history probably in the next couple games for his first 3 years. But I think the Cowboys can pull this out just because of how they're playing at the right time. They're playing the right way at the right time. And they're clicking on all cylinders. Defenses look great the past, 2-3 games-ish. And offense has been a powerhouse this year. I think this is going to hopefully be an actually interesting Thursday night game. You know, something that's not going to make you just like want to turn the TV off. But yeah, I'm excited for this game.
Cody, is there anyone going to stop George Pickens?
Not anyone on the Lions team. They're injured at the wrong time. I just pulled up their roster and their depth chart on ESPN right now. Do you know how many red letters like Q or IR are out or on that roster right now? They are depleted. And I think they just got the news that Arnold is probably going to be out as well with a knee injury, who's probably their only best safety that they had left on the roster. Offensively, too, they've had no Sam Laporta for the last few weeks. They probably won't get him back even through the end of the season unless they made the playoffs. You know, if St. Brown is out for this game and you're relying on Jameson Williams as your number one guy, and you're really relying on Jahmyr Gibbs and maybe David Montgomery. I mean, the Cowboys, if they can just take away the run game and dare, Jared Goff to beat them, I don't see how Detroit is able to, not that they can't compete. They're a well-coached team, but they don't have enough firepower. They don't have the defense they had to start the season with to stop the Cowboys. And the Cowboys have now figured out how to incorporate George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. They've got the run game going now with Williams. So honestly, like, the Cowboys started off in a weird spot, trading Micah and having all these weird defensive pairings. And then at the trade deadline really turned it upside down. And now they're looking like a dark horse in the NFC as long as they can take care of business and find a way to sneak in. Because when we talked about it yesterday, they're kind of on the outside looking in. They need a lot to fall their way, similar to the Chiefs in a way, but on the NFC side. And essentially their clear path is they got to beat the Eagles in the division. And if the Eagles keep falling, the Cowboys might just catch them. So I do think the Cowboys do take care of business on Thursday. And that sucks because I think Detroit, this is probably one of the last times we're going to see them in the postseason, just because the NFC is getting far more competitive and they're not even the second best team in their division this season, nor do I think in the future. So I think Dallas is just the team right now.
Is Dak going to fold under pressure tomorrow?
Yes. I do. Well, I don't think he's not necessarily him going to fold. I'm just not as sold on this Packers defense since they got Quinnen as everyone else.
Cowboys.
Chiefs still put up 28, and that was with a lot of self-inflicting, penalties, turnovers, drops.
Mm-hmm. I think our brothers are frozen.
I think they are frozen. You could see the look of surprise on Austin's face right there.
They had a profound statement to make. I'm sure it was going to be a good one. I'm just going to answer this for Austin. He's going to pick the Cowboys. Dak is going to throw for 500 yards. No one's going to stop him.
That's 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Detroit
12 broken sacks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess while we're waiting for the Shovik brothers, I can give my take as,
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't trust Dan Campbell. He takes way too many risks. And then we saw it in the last game, and not just like the last game, like with the Eagles and previous seasons, going for it on 4th down when you don't need to, trying to go for 2 when you don't need to. And he puts that team in position. Now it's like you went for it on 4th down in your own territory. Now you're putting that pressure, and it's a lot on your defense. Yeah, no matter, even if it would be the Broncos defense, you're asking your defense, hey, I'm going to go for it on my own 30, so I'm going to have you guys get that red zone defense. That's a lot on your defense.
Absolutely.
So I don't trust Dan Campbell. and especially with, Amon-Ra St. Brown possibly being out. And then, like you said, Cody, having to rely on
Jameson Williams.
Yeah, Jameson Williams, the other Matt Williams, to get the job done. Now, I know the Lions have reached out to me. I said, sorry, guys, I have to take my talents to the War Room podcast. That's where I belong. But, I just don't trust Danny. I mean, historically, the Cowboys and the Lions have always played each other tough,
right?
Whether they're in Dallas or whether they're in Detroit. Historically, they play each other tough, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like Dan Campbell is – I don't trust him enough to be able to put his team in a position to win, especially with the injuries that he has going on right now. I don't trust it.
I think what's tough is he's going through the same thing that the Eagles went through when they lost to Kansas City in the first Super Bowl that they met, which is all their coordinators left. And basically you're started from scratch. Now, fortunately, Campbell, his coordinators, he promoted from within. So some of them were positional coordinators. Some of them were, some of them were in other fields or whatnot. But when Campbell had them, he promoted them. But again, like that Eagles team, then when they lost all those coordinators, were never the same. And I feel like right now, like they're just gonna go through it. But I'm concerned that Detroit's probably not going to see the level of success that they saw last season or the season prior, where they were kind of in the divisional round and kind of on the doorstep of the conference championship. I feel like that they gave it their best shot, unless they make a lot of changes on the defensive side to where they shore up, their cornerback situation, they get better linebackers. I feel like until they can address some of those things or get a legit number 2 option for Goff, I don't know if Detroit's going to be back in the grand scheme of things in the bigger NFC picture for a while.
Yep. Shovik Brothers, I don't know what you heard so far, but basically I gave my take and said I don't trust Dan Campbell enough to get the job done with all the injuries. I think he takes a lot of unnecessary risks with those going forward on 4th down, going for 2 when you don't have to, putting your defense in a position when you go on 4th down, you don't convert. Now you're putting your defense in a position to defend short field territory, especially game plan with all the injuries he has. So that was my take on it.
Yeah, and where I was going with that is usually short weeks benefit, depending on what the teams have, their best unit. And so I think for both of these teams, it's offense. I think we're going to see kind of like the Packers-Cowboys game where it's going to just be they're trading blows. And I think it just depends which team, limits turnovers, which team gets a big special teams play. Dallas's special teams is really good. Lions is pretty decent as well, barring they might have their guy. And Cleve Raymond, I think, is actually hurt. So that does hurt return game and whatnot. But I'm still not sold on the Cowboys defense. It doesn't mean they aren't good. I just don't think we've truly seen them challenged outside of Kansas City. And I think Kansas City helped them quite a bit as far as messing up on offense. It's not to say they aren't good. I'm just not fully there to trust them yet. So short week, Thursday game, I do think it's just going to be a lot of high scoring, and you're going to see which one can kind of limit the turnovers or, make that random big play down the stretch. So I don't think it'll be as easy of a game as some are thinking. I do think it'll be very competitive. Personally, I hope it is. I got a lot of fantasy people going tomorrow on these offenses. So that might be why I want it 40-40, but I just hope for a good game. I don't want it to be a blowout. Even with the injuries, I just hope it stays competitive.
I do want to move on. Does anyone else have anything on the Cowboys Lions? Because I want to play a game to kind of end this show tonight.
Ooh.
Yeah, I purposely didn't tell you guys about this because I didn't want you to think about it too much.
Is there a prize?
No. Yeah, your prize is being here with us.
You get 2 wins on an NFL season.
There you go.
Oh.
Well, it's kind of so we talked last night about the playoff picture, right? Obviously, the Broncos Chargers are playoff implication, or we're in the playoffs if the season ended today. So now I want to talk about the doggy do of the league. I want to talk about the Raiders. I want to talk about the Titans and kind of where these teams are going to go. So the game is we're going to kind of go through, and I'm going to say, so for example, I'm going to say the Raiders. Cody, you're going to say Pete Carroll out, who's going to replace Pete. And I kind of want to, this is all entertainment purposes. This is not actually going to happen. This is just more of like a Christmas wish list type thing. And you can say Pete's going to stay and we're going to do this, or no, Pete's out, insert so-and-so. And then I'll ask Matt.
Do you want quick answers?
Yes, I want quick. Oh, well, yeah, we can keep it quick.
Okay.
And then I'll ask Matt, and I'll ask Caleb, and I'll ask my brother the other teams that I think are going to obviously either have coaching openings or maybe a coach on the hot seat.
Okay.
Anybody have questions about this game?
I'm good. I'm ready for it.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Love talking doggy do.
Yeah, this is Doggy Do Christmas wish list. So for those of you that tuned in last night, we talked playoffs. Now tonight we're gonna do the opposite of what the playoffs are, and these teams don't know what the playoffs are. And I'm not even sure the last time some of these teams made it to the playoffs. But either way, Cody, so I'm gonna start with you. Let's start with the Raiders. Pete Carroll in, out, who you're placing them with.
Okay, so I think that he's out. I think if he's not fired, he's going to part ways. I think this is one of those situations where it's probably more than what he bid, more than what he can chew. If I had to replace him, I think a couple of candidates, which is ironic because I did think about doing a video about this on Sunday. There's two candidates I assume that would probably be some decent fits. One would be the defensive coordinator from the Rams. I feel like that he's going to be in head coaching circles where he's probably going to get opportunity somewhere. The only other, coach that I was thinking was probably the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. He might be somewhere that's going to go to a place, because right now it's going to be coordinators. I don't think getting a seasoned coach is the right deal. I've heard Bill Belichick has been linked to the Raiders, which, for the love of God, no. No, I'd rather not.
It's your wish list. So who are you just wanting to be the coach?
Who would I want to coach to resurrect the Raiders?
Yeah, don't overthink it. Who do you just
don't
who do you
overthink
want?
it.
Kyle Shanahan.
There you go. This is, again, entertainment purposes only.
Yeah.
So before you guys get in the comments, or if you watch this later on and you say, what, this is all entertainment. This is Cody's wish list, right? He's a Raiders fan. And these other guys obviously aren't fans of the teams that we're going to talk about. But again, this is kind of, Cody's been miserable this season. If you guys haven't seen
Decades.
If you haven't seen the Cody crash outs, so this is kind of his way of
there's a semi crash out. I was like, wait, you want me to talk about what coach I want?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I want you to have some kind of joy talking about the Raiders. And if that's, hey, I'm going to dream of Kyle Shanahan, dream on, brother. That's what we're here for.
Thanks, Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Dream on.
Caleb, I'm going to go to you. You're Tennessee native. The Titans have a job opening. I don't think Mike McCoy's it. Mike McCoy, obviously, you're very familiar with. Matt, we're familiar with McCoy too. Not a head coach at all. So, Caleb, speak for the Titan fans. Who are they going with?
I think they need to go and not get a big name guy, if I'm being honest with you. I know Brian Callahan wasn't a big name guy either, but I think a lot of times in the NFL, teams get caught up on the big name people, big name coaches, and they just don't necessarily succeed. With that being said, though, I think this is a big name guy, ironically, but Cliff Kingsbury. I think he would be great to pair with Cam Ward. I know he didn't have a ton of success in Arizona, but I think it's time for him to get his feet back in the door and start coaching and being a head coach again. I think that's a Heupel. Oh, heck no. He needs to stay with my team, man. He needs to stay with the Vols. I need to keep him, man.
I'm waiting for one of you guys to say Lane Kiffin for your team.
Well, he's always a hoe. So, Maddie, we'll go to the next one here. Giants, obviously, Kafka, and he's the interim. Brian Daboll out. Where are the Giants going?
I think if, all the rumors come to fruition, Mike Tomlin probably would be a good fit for the Giants. But, and Corey, I like him there. I like him in Denver. I like what he's done with Bo Nix. But Davis Webb has also been linked to possible head coaching. So you could see it would be a Giants move to just take an inexperienced coach, at least at that level, and put him in the front office. But
who do you want to be there, though?
Who do I want to be there? Again, I think Mike Tomlin would probably be the best fit. Jesse Minter, you and I, Corey, have already said he's going to be a head coach next season. So I think Jesse Minter or Mike Tomlin would probably be the best fit over there.
Give me John Gruden.
I was going to say, if for a team like the Giants, John Gruden with Jackson Dart, I think that would be a pretty fun pairing.
I'm not saying that's like it could be realistic. I don't know, but I'm just saying from like what I would want to see to maybe get Giants back to some relevancy.
John Gruden in New York.
John Gruden.
Dude, that would be the wildest scene.
The Gruden grinder.
Gruden grinder taking on the New York media. Man.
That would be I'd love that.
All right. Let's go with the Browns.
Oh, why would you give me the Browns, dude? This is
so you can take them to the Super Bowl.
What was the head coach's name in draft day? They need that guy.
Kevin Costner?
No, the Dennis Leary's character. I don't remember what his name was, but they need that coach.
Dick Vermeil.
The sad thing is there's no such thing as a good coach for Cleveland. And I don't want to say somebody I like because I don't want to see them in Cleveland. This is absolutely. Yeah, of course I get the Browns. All right. Well, Stefanski, I think, is definitely out. No doubt about it. I'm trying to think of who I'd want to see there. That's so bad. I don't want anyone to go to the Browns.
I actually, so kind of to the same vein that Corey was trying to do, I'm actually wondering what coach would, alive or dead, would be able to turn around this franchise.
None. That's the problem. Like, I got the franchise that doesn't. There's no possibility of happiness there. I think I'm going to double up. I think I'm going to give them a strong defensive-minded coach to let that defense shore up and hope they get a coordinator pick right for offense. So I actually think Jesse Minter. I think him with that defense would take them even to another level and hope that he can get a coordinator for offense right. I think that's proven time after time that offensive-minded head coach with the Browns just isn't going to do it. So let's just strengthen our strength and hope for the best on offense. So I'm going to go Jesse Minter. If we're going to go dead or alive, I think you got to go.
Any coach.
You'll like this one, Cody. I think John Madden would be able to do something there.
It may take him a while, but yeah.
It would. Absolutely. But, there's no hope for Cleveland, but we can hope for the best with Minter.
I mean, I said last night I liked Robert Saleh in Cleveland. He'd have to get his offense coordinator pick correct, obviously. And then I made the comment of, and you got to trade Jerry Jeudy's ass and get him out because he's not it.
You think he leaves for head coaching again?
I do. I think I think hopefully he learned from the last mistake when he brought in Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah. But
again,
your combo of him and McDaniel, though, like give just McDaniel an offense to run.
Oh, yeah.
So there is an avenue for the Browns. Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniel is the head coach OC combo for a year or two. I think that gets the best out of Shador, and I think obviously Robert Saleh, even when he was in New York with the Jets, they had a solid defense. So, but I also like Robert Saleh in Tennessee as well. So. Again, I do like Robert Saleh as a head coach again. He's probably number one on my head coaching candidate list just because of what he can do with the defense. And you just have to hope that he learns from his mistakes because, again, at the end of the day, it's about who your coordinators are. And I think Dan Campbell's learning that the very, very hard way right now. We've seen Nick Sirianni. He's learned that the hard way. It's not a bad thing because people keep taking your coordinators, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to recycle them. It's not a Chiefs situation where nobody wants their coordinators, and then when they do, they end up back in Kansas City at the end of the day. So, that was just a fun, lighthearted game. Again, entertainment purposes only. None of those coaches are probably. I mean, obviously, Kyle Shanahan's not going to the Raiders.
I can tell you who the Titans probably want as their head coach, Mike Vrabel. Oh.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, wait. We messed
Probably.
that one up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Horribly.
So
That's a front office issue. But
anybody else have anything that they would like to talk about tonight before we get out of here?
Now, just make sure you subscribe and go watch the beginning of the episode where we had Broncos kind of inside report guy, Cody Roark. Had some good insight on Denver, so just if you joined a little late, make sure you go watch the beginning of the episode and catch all the good stuff. This Cody. Yeah, the better Cody had to say about the Broncos.
He's the upside down Cody.
I'm from Stranger Things.
That's never a bad thing. So let's pay some bills. All right. So start with some of the affiliates. You know, we have Beard Club. There it is. Then you have Shank-It Golf. Got some good deals going on right now. So make sure you guys are looking at the links and going to it. Shank-It Golf, Beard Club, Homage. I think he's wearing a Homage shirt tonight. And then Badger Barrel, Matt.
In a world of butterflies, be a badger.
Hell yeah. So
You're like the dancing monkey that we just, turn the notch behind and you perform.
Obviously the weather here in St. Louis is not smoking weather. It's cold and snowy. It's be cold and snowy again. So now let's get to the big ones. Let's start with Troy, Field Ops, Kansas, for all your field marking needs. And then let's go Angie and her team in Emporia State Federal Credit Union, Show's Banking of Choice, as well as the War Room's Banking of Choice. And then the big one, as we are in the JBW Solutions Studio, Caleb repping the polo. I almost wore the polo tonight. I'm glad I didn't because we would have been twinsies. So thank you to Jeff. As always, big thanks to Jeff and his guys and their team. So again, guys, make sure you guys are hitting the subscribe button, liking the videos. I'm really, really liking where we are going subscriber-wise. And then our guys are working hard with all the cool graphics you are seeing. And we will be back Sunday for our pregame show. We have any visitors coming up that we need to plug in? Are we still doing a show today?
Oh, shoot. We sure are. Yeah. Yeah, we have Steve, Scuba Steve. No, Steve joining from the South Florida Tribune. He's an Eagles fan, so he'll probably join more of the darkness side with me and Cody than anything. But I do think the Eagles have a matchup
against the Chargers this week.
Yeah, the Chargers this week, so we'll probably hit that a little bit. But yeah, we have Steve coming on, talk a little Eagles Chargers, maybe get his thoughts on the Cowboys, if he's willing to talk Cowboys at all. So that is Friday. Good call out.
Matt's been crushing it with the Broncos people. Where's the Chiefs, Chargers, and Raiders at?
I had all the Chiefs players and coaches, okay?
The Raiders are in hiding, as they should be.
And
we're in witness protection right now.
Yeah, and
Chargers they're probably just injured, so they can't write.
They
Power
are.
outage.
They are.
Power
Their fingers
outage.
are broke. They can't respond.
Too much voltage.
Outage.
Yeah. So again, thank you to Cody Roark for joining tonight. Thank you guys in the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys back here on
Friday.